Hello everyone, my name is BB. Welcome back to our show, Gosh Darn Dandy Time. Tonight's topic is just going to be something broad and vague and wide. Education. Preschool to 12th grade public schools in the US. Standardized testing. I hate it. In Washington State, you can opt out. That means during standardized testing weeks, and if your kid is in public school, you can pull them out. And their absence will be excused. You just have to tell your school office of attendance. You have to tell your kid's homeroom teacher. You have to tell the kid's school principal and assistant principal. Blah, 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 blah. I'm pulling my child out of school for standardized testing because standardized testing does not show who my child is in the classroom. Blah, 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 blah. We are opting out. Blah, 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 blah. And if your state allows it, then your child has to be excused. So it's an excused absence. People, standardized testing does not determine your child's IQ or their academic abilities or their academic progress. You see your kids' homework throughout the school year. You see their brought home assignments, their lessons, their activities, their projects, things they do in the classroom. They bring that home. You go to the classroom on room parenting days and volunteer events. You go pick up your kid after school and you stop by their classroom to talk with the teachers about blah, blah, blah and blah, blah, blah. And you see your kid's desk. You see their work hanging up on the bulletin boards and the walls. You see their progress in their handwriting and their math work and their journals and their science journaling and school projects and their art skills. You see their progress and you know that they're on par for their age and for their grade level and what the school expects of your kid at their age, at their grade level, in that classroom, at that school. If your kid is meeting expectations, whether on a low end, a middle end, or a high end, then fuck standardized testing. Your standardized tests don't know your kid. Standardized tests are only there to determine how well the teacher taught to the standardized test curriculum. Yeah, see, it doesn't actually cover what your kid learned throughout the school year and all that physical work. All that physical work, by standards of the standardized test, all that physical work is just filler work. The standardized test makers like Pearson and McGraw-Hill, they only care about the standardized test score. Sometimes there are certain states in the US that threaten students and parents. Your child will not pass the third grade if they receive a 1 or a 2 on their standardized test as a score. Only if they receive a 3 or a 4 as their score will they move on to the 4th grade. There are states in the US. I don't know which states, but I've seen it in the news and the media, on those on YouTube when those news stations do that stuff, or when those school board meetings pop up on YouTube. Then you see it for what it is, and that's pathetic. That's bullshit. If your kid completes everything they're supposed to do throughout the school year and their academic performance in the classroom meets expectations, their grades, their attendance, their assignments, their turn-in rates of assignments and homework, the homework they complete, and they do everything either just under meeting expectations or meeting expectations or exceeding expectations, they should be passed on to the next grade level. Holding back a kid just because they don't complete a standardized test, a government-made test that isn't created by educators, isn't created by teachers, it's created by conglomerates and publishers that have never met your kid. If your kid doesn't pass that test, they could be held back. And what does that do to the kid? It hurts their ego, it hurts their emotions, it hurts their self-esteem, it hurts their possibility of any more academic progress in the long run. It can hurt their emotions in the sense that they're either going to be held back at the school they're at, or they're going to be transferred to another school. But if they're most likely going to be held back, having to repeat 3rd grade with the same teacher, but with new classmates, and their current classmates are going to go on to the 4th grade, you can expect there's going to be a lot of bullying. Haha, you got held back. Haha, you can't be in 4th grade with us. What do you think that does to a kid? To a human being? To a human being to be told you can't move on with the rest of the group because you didn't pass one tiny little thing. But that's the big thing. That's not fair. That's not fair at all. And statistics around the US and Canada have shown that when you graduate high school at an older age, such as late 19 and a half, early 20, by the time you are in June of 12th grade and you're either at the very end of 19 and a half or the early end of 20, that harms your ability to graduate on time. And then when you get to high school, if you were held back to do 3rd grade a second time over, it matters a lot how old you were when your parents enrolled you in either kindergarten or 1st grade, depending on your state's enrollment cutoff dates, blah, 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 blah. And if your parents enrolled you in kindergarten at 6 and you turned 7 in the middle or the end of kindergarten, then naturally, without skipping any grades, without being held back in any grades, you should be 19 either in the middle of 12th grade or at the end of 12th grade. But when you're held back in an elementary grade or middle grade by 1 extra year, that puts you, in theory, to be graduating high school at 20 and a half. Or early 21. That's scary. And that's without being in special education with a transition to work program. That's just if you're in regular classes. That's scary. And then there are always going to be those parents, not kids or teenagers, but the parents, the overly involved room parents who decide they want to be room parents to their teenagers' classrooms, even in the high school years. It's going to be those stupid parents, or maybe the occasional teacher who's like, I don't want to teach a 21-year-old who's going to be in the same class as 18-year-olds. What? Are you infantilizing 18-year-olds and saying they're too young to be in the same class as 21-year-olds? Because you can't blame the 21-year-old or the 20-year-old for being there. And 18-year-olds, I'm sure, can take care of their own emotions and decide who they want to work with and who they want to do their assignments with. It's not like you're forcing 5th graders to be in the same elective classes as 9th graders. See, that's too wide of an age gap. When you're forcing 10 to 11 and a half year olds to do the same classes with say 14 and 15 year olds, maybe a few 16 year olds, then you got too wide of an age gap. But if your 12th graders are anywhere from mid 17 to late 19, that's whatever. A lot of high school teens don't freaking care whose birthday is when or who is how old in years and then months. It's not important. When I was in high school, my graduating class was 642 students. It was like 60-70% female and the rest of it was male. But I remember at my graduation, like nearly 600 out of 642, so about 97% of my graduating high school class, we were already all 19-year-olds, if not 19 and a half. I was 19 and 4 months? Yeah, I was 19 and 4 months of age when I graduated from high school. But a lot of us were 19 already, so does it really matter how old you are, 18, 19 when you graduate? No, it doesn't. Stick around for part 2. Stick around for part 2, please. Thank you.